Welcome, everybody. I want to invite everybody at the food to make their way over to the tables. It is really quite an honor to be able to host this tonight. I want to welcome everybody. My name is Rabbi Lawrence Rosenthal. I'm the rabbi at Ahavat Achim Synagogue. On behalf of our leadership, our president, Gary Olimbic, our executive vice president, Mark Stern, and our executive director, Barry Herman, our staff, and everybody here, we welcome you, we thank you, and we thank especially the Atlanta Jewish Foundation for hosting tonight's event here. I know that in the past it's made its way through the community, and we are honored to be able to host you at this very, very special occasion to honor so many of you who have made our community and our legacy so important. So thank you for being part of the best part that Atlanta has to offer. With that, I want to share a quick reflection before we invite up our host to give you the formal welcoming from the Atlanta Foundation. So many of you heard about the trip of Jewish communal leaders, mainly rabbis, but also the heads of some of the wonderful institutions like AJC and JCRC and the Federation and other places like that went to Israel at the end of January and came back at the beginning of February. There's been a lot of press about that, and I've been taking the time over a series of sermons to speak about that experience. I can't say it was a good trip. It was a wonderful trip, but it was a difficult trip. It was hard to be in Israel. There are things that I saw that still give me nightmares. There are things that I heard and witnessed that give me hope and give me strength, make me proud, and still cry every so often when I think deeply about it. So over the course of the next couple weeks, I'm spending talking to our community right in our sanctuary over there about this trip because it's just too much to just unpack in one sitting. And I wanted to give you a teaser for one of the upcoming sermons that I'll be giving. Not this week. This week I'm actually talking about the great divide between Israel and the North American Jewish community is the time difference. And I'm not talking about 7 hours. But what I want to tease you with, what I want to share with you is something that I learned on this trip. On October 7th, when Israel suffered the atrocities that it did at the hands of Hamas, there was something that was discovered the next day. And that continued to be discovered and learned and invited from October 8th onward. And I was surprised to find out what Israel and the Israelis specifically found. Because I thought that they knew all about it. And what they found was us. They found us, Jews in North America. It was absolutely incredible. We read article after article, too many articles, about the great divide between the Israelis and the North American Jews. And we worry about it, and we send more kids to Israel, and we do all these incredible things to try to close that divide. And one of the things we never thought about was that we really weren't seeing each other. Maybe we didn't want to look. Maybe we didn't know where to look. But with October 7th and what's happened after that, and our incredible support, North American Jews' incredible support, sending over what I learned was over $1 billion from North America to Israel. Governments barely could do that. Unbelievable. And they are looking at us. They are worried about us. In the first time in a generation, they hear about anti-Semitism on campus. They know that what happens there and what they do there, we struggle with here. We have to deal with here. And there's this incredible connection that has developed because they have discovered us. And so the question that I am unpacking for myself and for my community over the next couple Shabbats is, what do they see? What do we have to show them? Because they're not just looking out of sympathy, they're looking in curiosity. As everything goes on there, they're looking at us in awe and in wonder. They're seeing vibrant communities throughout North America, and they wonder, how are they doing it? What are their values? How do they bring themselves up? How did they create such dynamism, such power, such amazing places? And so I'm keenly interested in what are we showing them? And I have to say, when I look around this room, and I know the commitment and the things that you have done, all of you have done to ensure that this community stays vibrant and strong and continues to grow, we are showing them something incredible. And that is what they are looking at right now. That is what the Israeli Jewish community is looking at. It was amazing being there. It was sad to hear how few people and groups are going and how appreciative they were for our group and others that have been coming. And I know that many of you are going on trips with incredible organizations. We're planning a trip here from our congregation just to go to just be there because they are watching us now. They see us now. And they know what we have always known, that our fates are connected. So my friends, I thank you for making the North American Jewish world something to envy, something to be inspired by, and halfway across the world, a group of people who are entrenched in war, a group of our brothers and sisters entrenched in war, are gaining strength and feeling love and confidence because of you and because of what we are building here together. So thank you for your incredible dedication. Thank you for everything you do. And let's show Israel and the world how incredible Jewish life and a Jewish community could truly be. I want to thank you. So I'm going to slip out. Tonight is my wedding anniversary, so unless one of you has a couch for me to sleep on, I better get going. I want to invite Karen and Michael Merlin and Lisa and Evan Toporek, who are our hosts tonight. Please give them a big round of applause as they come up to share with you the program and some words of welcome.
Hello, everybody. I think Lisa and Karen are sitting this one out, but thank you for doing all this work. Good evening. I'm Evan Toporek, and we're so happy to have you here tonight at Grow a Legacy. The reason that we gather here this evening is to celebrate all of you, the generous, huge-hearted people here in the Atlanta Jewish community who are committed to securing its future. This event was made possible by the Atlanta Jewish Foundation, Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta, Harold Grinspoon Foundation, the Linnea Private Wealth Management, Roots, Jewish Future Promise, and by a terrific host committee of dedicated volunteers. Especially big thank you to the AA for generously hosting tonight, and I might add, this is the first time I've seen this renovation, and it's beautiful. A lot to be proud of here. We are here to thank you, to celebrate our collective culture of giving and the terrific Jewish organizations that make Atlanta an outstanding community built on Jewish values. This year's Grow a Legacy event honors the past, the present, and the future. The evolution of philanthropic giving and the generational value of generosity that we all hold so close to our hearts. There are so many things that our families could choose to focus on and dedicate their time and resources to. And the fact that everyone here has chosen to prioritize helping others as a core value to pass on to your children is rare in today's day, and certainly not something that we take for granted. The impact of that commitment in this room is apparent. From grandparents to grandchildren, we are all contributing to a better Atlanta, a better Israel, and a better world. If you are here as a representative of one of amazing nonprofits in this city, please stand up now. Nonprofit leaders. We thank you for your hard work and your well-deserving round of applause. Because of all of you and all of us here, our future generations will thrive in an even stronger, more vibrant, and more innovative community than the one we have even today. Thank you.
We are proud to share the impact that Life and Legacy is already having on our community. Life and Legacy is a capacity-building partnership of the Harold Greenspoon Foundation, the same foundation that created the PJ Library, which I know my kids enjoyed a long time ago, which also tonight was distributing books, so that was lovely. Thank you so much for that. Once again, Harold Greenspoon has innovated by creating a program that provides training, support, and monetary incentives to move organizations to secure meaningful after-lifetime legacy gifts. Atlanta just launched its second cohort, and I'm thrilled to tell you that to date, 639 local donors have signed Life and Legacy letters of intent, pledging future commitments of $43.5 million that will support our Atlanta Jewish community. They are laying a firm foundation for our future and for our sustainability. We are delighted to highlight also the Jewish Future Promise. This is a worldwide Jewish initiative that actually took shape in Atlanta, thanks to our friends Mike Levin and Mark Silberman, and calls on all Jews to make a moral commitment to sustain our people. It's a commitment that from the funds you leave to charity after your passing, at least half are earmarked to support Jewish people or the state of Israel. No matter your age or your net worth, the Jewish Future Promise and Life and Legacy are easily accessible to you. As a member of the Atlanta Jewish Foundation's Operating Committee and Advisory Board, we are proud to oversee and administer to both Life and Legacy, the Jewish Future Promise, and so much more. The Atlanta Jewish Foundation can act as your philanthropic advisor and serve our families and our community, helping to shape a shared vision and a commitment to the future. Thank you all for celebrating with us, and it's now my pleasure to welcome Kathy Sarlson and Tamara Dolan from the Harold Greenspoon Foundation.
That was nice. He put the microphone down. Not that we needed it. Okay, we did. So I got this prompt. I understand we're supposed to fill out a prompt. So the prompt is, tell us about something you stood for. So I thought I'd start out my remarks with something I stood for. Back in 1987, it was Erev Yom Kippur, and I sat with Rabbi Avi Weiss and about 50 other young people, our arms linked, sitting on the pavement, in front of the Soviet embassy in New York. How many of you also did that? Oh, I thought I'd get a few here. Okay. So anyway, we were arrested. The newspaper wrote it up and said, Tamara Dolan has never even gotten a parking ticket, but she was arrested. Okay. We were all loaded into a bus. We were taken to the local precinct. I don't remember the rest. I know I didn't spend the night in jail. So I'm Tammy Dolan, and I've had the honor of working with your community for the last 6 years as your community consultant with Life and Legacy of the Harold Greenspoon Foundation. And I have a special guest with me tonight, our new national director. She's been with us for about a month, and her name is Kathy Sarlson. This is Kathy's first visit to one of our Life and Legacy communities, so you have the honor of welcoming her.
Thank you, Tammy. What a great story. It reminded me of when I lived in the Boston area and hopped on that overnight bus and did one of many marches in Washington, but this one for Soviet Jewry. And it was a really important experience, and I imagine some people here tonight also were involved in that struggle. So yes, I am so honored to be with you this evening. My heart is really full, already talking to people from the foundation, the federation, the synagogues, agencies, and especially those of you who have already made a promise, either this promise or in general, made a promise to secure your Jewish future in Atlanta. I also come bearing greetings from Harold Grinspoon, who, as you know, really had the vision and the heart to start this program. He didn't have to. PJ Library's phenomenal, but he really cares deeply about strengthening Jewish organizations for the future, and so built this program, and we are so incredibly inspired. Harold, Winnie Grinspoon, who is the president of the foundation, we are really inspired by what Atlanta has accomplished. All of you coming together with so much heart. And I just really want you to take a minute to applaud yourselves for all the incredible work. I'm not going to repeat the statistics that were just cited, but it's magnificent. So congratulations to you.
So we wanted to let you know that you're also part of a movement, an effort in North America to secure the Jewish future in all these different communities. We're now in 75 different communities, and our most recent statistics show that we are working with over 900, almost 900 Jewish organizations of all kinds across the denominations. Our legacy teams in each community have secured over 40,000 legacy commitments from about 30-some thousand donors. And that's worth an estimated future value of $1.6 billion. Thank you. And $234 million is already at work in organizational endowments today. So thank you so much for being a part of this. We're so thrilled to be here with you tonight. And we're going to turn the mic over to Amanda Marks.
Thank you. Thank you. Then this microphone height is perfect for me because I'm tall for a Jewish girl, but I'm also tall for a Jewish boy. So welcome to the Atlanta Jewish Foundation's Grow a Legacy Story Slam. I'm Amanda Marks. You may recognize me from doing stand-up around town, maybe from a family reunion, maybe we made out 30 years ago at a USY convention and then ran into each other at the family reunion. It gets a little awkward when you're a Southern Jew because the world is small. But thank you for spending your evening with us. You know, this shindig, in addition to celebrating and thanking legacy givers, we are also going to hear some stories about legacy, past, present, and future. And if you were able to fill out a prompt, we are going to be telling some of your stories in between. Don't worry, you don't have to come up here. I'm going to be telling it for you. So if something sounds familiar, it's because you wrote it, or the person you're married to wrote it. So we're going to get this started with a few prompts that you wrote. Are you ready? I cannot predict what's going to happen, okay? So this prompt is, tell us something you stood for. Jewish education. Tell us something you stood for. No pee on the walls. Mom of 3 boys, she notates. It's very important. Tell us something you stood for. Making the world a better place. Tell us something you stood for. I stood for freedom. From freeing the Russian refugees in Washington, D.C. in 1987. That's awesome. My brother was there. Did you remember Stuart? Did you meet him? Tell us about something you stood for. When the judge came up in the courtroom. I guess you had no choice. So, our first speaker, gather round for Ted Bloom, a legal legend and storytelling sensation. Beyond closing deals, Ted spins tales of triumph and transformation in his debut book, Calculated Risks, delving into his family's journey and legal lore. Nestled in Atlanta for over 3 decades with his tight-knit family, Ted is the managing shareholder of Atlanta's legal landscape and chair of the Atlanta corporate practice. Ted, the stage is yours. Let's welcome him to the stage. Let the storytelling begin. Ted's going to be sharing a story on legacy past. So keep it going for Ted Bloom. Woo! Do you want to sit down?
So I'm Ted Bloom, and about 2 weeks ago, I heard from my mother the final story she had to tell me. She passed away 2 weeks ago, and while we were sitting with her at the Jewish home, my sister and I, we heard her final story. But she didn't have any words to tell the story. She was just there with us, and we were there with her. And it was a beautiful ending story from my mother. Years ago, my mother and my father used to tell tons of stories. I grew up in central Illinois listening to more stories than I ever wanted to listen to of family members from Europe, from Hungary, and all parts of Central Europe who lived through the World War I, lived through World War II, came to America before the wars, came to America after the war. I met them. I didn't know which cousin I was meeting, which aunt and uncle and great aunt and uncle. I just knew they cooked great food and they hugged me a lot, and it was wonderful to listen to them talk, and I grew up in their stories. Mostly I wanted to go play basketball, but they would tell stories and I would listen dutifully. Years passed and I realized I had gotten to know these people long after they passed through the stories they told. And my parents kept those stories alive. And in keeping those stories alive, my parents kept those people alive for me. And now that my parents are both gone, I thought it's on me for the next generation to keep stories of my family alive for the next generation. So what I've learned from stories, the power of stories, is the power of roots. You know, we all live busy lives. We run in chaotic circles and we strive for the success we want in our lives, but the stories keep us real, and the roots keep us real, and keep us tuned into who we are, who we want to be, where we come from, and what kind of future we want to shape for our kids. So for me, stories was first about listening, and then it was about getting them on paper. So when COVID happened, I decided if I didn't pass on the stories that were shared with me to my next generation, they would be gone. And so when I was locked into my house, I unlocked the world of the stories that were shared with me from the years past. And I started scribbling notes and pouring through documents and jumping into photographs. And fortunately, my mother was alive at the time, and my older brother had interviewed many people years ago, and we were able to construct the narrative of how the Bloom and my mother's maiden name Mandel family came from Hungary to America, how they withstood World War I, the Russian Revolution, Siberian exile, Siberian imprisonment, traveling around the world to get back to Europe from the far east of Russia and through Asia, and then getting out of Europe in time for World War II to come, and then the other side of my family suffering through the rise of anti-Semitism and the decisions they had to make to get out of the way of anti-Semitism. I learned from all this just the power of resilience, the power of savviness, the power to look ahead, and the power to figure out how you can overcome the obstacles. When there's state-sponsored anti-Semitism, maybe the only thing you can do is flee. And fortunately, my family mostly fled Europe. Today, as we face anti-Semitism, we have the power to use strength to stand up and make sure it never gets to that point. So for me, legacy past lives today in legacy present, simply by being the basis on which the roots of my life inform how I want to behave, how I want to pass on legacies to my kids, and one day my future grandchildren, God willing. And stories are the way that I have found that I could shape the legacies. So I'm happy to be here. I love that this community cares so much about legacies because it shows that we honor so much our past and the past of all of us and our common story as well as our individual stories. And we're all someday going to be the legacy givers for another generation. And with that in mind, and with the lessons from our past, I just find you can really transform the meaning of your life into an elevated way just by living and breathing the examples that you learned and that you want your kids and future generations to learn. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ted. He was great. That was a great story. So our next prompt that y'all filled out, hopefully, because if you did, you may get to win a book in the raffle. Tell us about a time that felt like a turning point in your life. Going to Israel on birthright. Woo, birthright. Woo. Yeah. Tell us about a time that felt like a turning point in your life. When I finally accepted the gift God gave to the Jewish people on the eve of the new millennium, the gift of Shabbat. This next Shabbat will be 1,264. I am counting. Each gift, I am counting each gift because this has changed my life for the good forever. My life is becoming closer to our creators because we are going up the hill to the greatest relationship of all, and celebrating Shabbat gives me greater access. It was beautiful. Tell us about a turning point that felt, tell us about a time that felt like a turning point in your life. The time I realized I need readers in front of 200 people. Tell us about a time that felt like a turning point in your life. Joining Temple Kol Emeth in 1991, I learned about Jewish community and enjoying Judaism. It was beautiful. So for our next speaker, put your spoons up and get ready to slurp into the heartwarming world of Jenny Levison. Woo! Atlanta's very own soup diva, whose Super Jenny has been serving up freshness and good vibes since 1999. Notably with the legendary My Dad's Turkey Chili, and we all got to taste it tonight. Beyond the kitchen, Jenny's commitment to her community is prolific, including projects like the Zadie Project, offering nourishment and hope to Atlanta's hungry souls. Get ready to savor her inspiring tale. Jenny will be sharing her story on Legacy Present.
Good evening. So if I could see a show of hands besides tonight, if you've ever enjoyed a bowl of My Dad's Turkey Chili. First of all, I want to thank you. And I just want to let you know that that very first recipe that my dad gave me over 25 years ago was really the beginning of probably his lessons that he had to teach me. When I think about my dad, actually, when I think about the word legacy, I'm not really sure that I've given a lot of thought to what legacy meant to me. I always thought I was too young to start thinking about my legacy until about 13 weeks ago when my father passed away. That gave me lots of time to reflect about what my dad had left behind and what was important to him and what I was hoping that he was going to pass on to me. At his service, I noticed that everyone that came up and spoke about him, myself, my two brothers, his three oldest friends, his grandchildren, they really all said the same thing. My father lived by 4 tenets: family, community, respect of others, and being open-minded, which in our family was not always easy to do. But that brought us all together. And he didn't ever push his agenda on us. He just had mechanisms, which I really now call rituals, that would bring us all together to the points that he was trying to teach us. And I thought tonight I really just wanted to share one of my favorite things that my dad did that so many people probably already know about. About 15, 16 years ago, he decided he was going to create the Ask Zadie dinners. These were evenings that he planned. They were only for his grandchildren. His children were not invited. And they happened every couple of months or when he could round all his grandchildren up. And he would plan the menus of these dinners meticulously. And my dad, even at 95, was still cooking everything by himself. And the grandchildren would show up, and there would often be 7 to 10 complete different dishes because he had to, provide for all the different children's dietary needs: gluten-free, vegan, vegetarian, right? I know my son who's here remembers that about him. And the point would be they would gather around the table for this meal, and they could ask my dad any question they wanted. No subject was off topic. And that was something that I don't even think they realized became a treasured time for all of the grandchildren. And not just for them, for my dad, every time he had them around the table. And I was just always in awe of that, because for me, I never even met either of my grandparents. So to see my own child having a special relationship with my father was incredibly beautiful. After a couple of rounds of these dinners, my dad decided he was going to add a new lesson: philanthropy. And it wasn't negotiable. You didn't have a choice. He came to the dinner table to all his grandchildren and he said, "I'm going to put $5,000 out. I want each of you to go and research a cause that you're passionate about. Bring it back to the dinner. We're going to discuss them. And then as a group, they would pick the top 3 charities that they would support for that year." And over the years, that amount grew, and then my brothers added to that. And it's been such a beautiful thing for me to watch after so many years. When he started this dinner, I think my son was 5, and he didn't know why he was going to dinner. He just loved hanging out with his nieces and nephews and climbing all over them. And it was such a proud mama moment for me this past year when my 20-year-old, he didn't tell me. It was his nephew that told me that Jonah had a seat at the table, and he brought a cause that was important to him for everyone to discuss. And that, to me, was such a beautiful legacy moment. When I think about what legacy means to me now, I'll always think of my dad, because my dad is the one that gave me that first recipe 25 years ago. That recipe brought me back to my family in Atlanta. That recipe led me to believe that I could become a parent, that I could start a nonprofit, and that I could create this incredible community through food. Family, community, respecting others, and being open-minded. I think it's a great start if you're wanting to think about what's important to you. And Dad, I won't let you down. Thank you.
What an incredible legacy he has left for your family. That was beautiful, Jenny. Thank you so much for sharing. So we have one more speaker for the evening, one more storyteller, and just a few more prompts. There's still time. There's not actually, there's no more time. So what are your true assets? My family. What are your true assets? Energy and time. I really thought someone was going to say 401k, maybe their 529. For that's mine. Those are my assets right now. I've got a kid going to college, so. What are your true assets? My children and grandchildren. A generation yet unborn. That's beautiful. Thank you so much to everyone who shared their stories. So our final storyteller of the evening, Mike Levin, in addition to being a huge lover of summer camp, is a titan in industry and philanthropy, inspired by Buffett and Gates to uphold his family's legacy through the Jewish Future Promise. With executive roles at the Georgia Aquarium and the Las Vegas Sands Corporation, Mike's leadership leaves an indelible mark, notably co-founding the Asian American Hotel Owners Association, and he will be sharing a story around legacy future. Let's all welcome Mike Levin to the stage.
I don't usually get a tough act to follow, but there's 3 of them before me. I can't believe this. I could tell you stories for a long time, and many of you here who know me have heard them. But I want to just tell you a couple of things that got me started and why I do what I do. But before I start that, I want to say thank you to the city of Atlanta, who now is and has been the leading city in the country for the Jewish Future Promise in terms of signatures. And the other organizations that we talk to are not even close to it. So now today, 48,000 and some change have signed it. We changed the name in order to make it easier for people who are not the wealthiest in the community to sign, but for people like many Atlantans who support all these organizations to sign the promise. And we hope that for anybody here who hasn't, we hope that you will do it and try to get us to 50,000. Okay, so without the thanks, I want to talk a couple of small stories because unfortunately, I have to catch a plane. The first is a little bit of my history. Some of you may know or may not know. I grew up in Boston with my maternal grandparents and my parents in a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment, and I had to shovel coal in to get heat. We had no washing machine, no dryer, we had no icebox. That's how it all started. But what I had was a grandmother from Lithuania, a grandfather from Crimea, and 2 parents who were wonderful. And my grandfather was the vice president of a little Orthodox shul down the street. And I went to Hebrew school 4 days during the week and 1 day on Sunday. Never liked it at all. I hated it. If you loved Hebrew school, don't listen to me. But I went. And Shabbat was Shabbat. It wasn't Shabbat, it was Shabbos there. The Yiddish was Yiddish. Many of you all know that. And 2 little stories, one about my grandfather and one about my grandmother. Very quickly. November 29th, 1947 was a Saturday. Some of you here may know the date of November 29th, 1947. It was the day that the United Nations signed the partition plan for Israel. Most of you, I'm sure no one here knew it was a Saturday, but many years later I researched it because I couldn't figure out why they had the signing on a Saturday. And finally I said it was very spiritual. It was chosen by others than human beings to be on Shabbos, of all things. Well, anyway, that Saturday afternoon, I came home from participating in a youth service at one of the local synagogues. And my grandfather was home already, and he was sitting at the kitchen table, and the radio was on. And we never had a radio on Saturday. It wasn't turned on. In fact, we used to light the the oven or the whatever, the gas Friday afternoon because we couldn't turn a light on Saturday, on Shabbos. And he was sitting at the table, and I walked in, and he was listening to the radio. And I said, Pa, I called him Pa. He wasn't a Zaidi, he was a Pa to me. My dad was away in World War II in the 40s and whatever. So he was sitting there, and he had a pencil in his hand and a piece of paper. And he had, I said, the radio's on, Pa. Why? It's Shabbos. And he said, still. And he held his hand up. And then I looked, and he took the pencil, and he was checking a piece of paper. And I said, Pa, you're writing on Shabbos. I couldn't write on Shabbos. And he said, still. And he was a little guy, about so high, but very strong. Finally, he started to cry. Tears rolling down. Now, I'll bet no one in this room has ever seen their grandfather cry. If it is, it's very unusual, maybe a funeral or something like that. And he looked at me, and I said, why are you crying? He said, we have a home. And it didn't hit me at that particular time. I was 1949, I was 11 years old, 12 years old, whatever it was. And that was Israel, when he said, we have a home. So for all my life after that, in that story, I remember whenever I talk about Israel, and I've been there 20 times and whatever, and many of you have just come back, some of you are going to be going. And it is a home. And since October 7th, there are many millions of people who have now come to understand what that home means. And so that for my grandfather, everything I've done sort of reminds me of that day. And in fact, one time I was given an award in New York City at a big dinner of some Jewish organization. And I told the same story, and one person on the dais said, I've never heard anything like that story. Most people don't even know about November 29, 1947. So anyway, the other thing about my past that gets me to do what I do for the future is my grandmother. My grandmother, when the high holidays were, and the synagogue, the shul, which was the shul down the street, I had to carry her book to the synagogue. Because in those days, they didn't have books. They didn't have sidurs. And people owned their own siddur. So when they own their own siddur, somebody has to carry it because the grandmother couldn't carry on the holidays. So then I asked myself, who's going to carry the book in the next generation? Think about that. And when somebody says they've talked to their children and managed their children and their grandchildren, those are the potential book carriers, and they are the future. It is no longer us. It is the future. So a few years ago, I went to a lecture in Aspen, Colorado, by a guy named David Horowitz, who was the editor of the Jewish Times of Israel, the newspaper. And he said, what's going to happen in the next generation to the wealth transfer? North America is 90% of the diaspora, and there's lots of money in the North American Jewish community. In fact, at that time, it was estimated to be about $6 billion a year going to Jewish charities, Jewish organizations, Jewish camps, Jewish schools, and Israel. And he was worried about the next generation. So I didn't think about it at that time. Why would I be worried? I'm doing okay. I'm giving my donations and whatever. And then one day it hit me and it said, gee whiz, why can't we do a little bit on top of what Life and Legacy is doing, because they're doing it and they're making commitments? Why can't we have a pledge, now called a promise, for anybody to say that pledge that makes sure that 50% of charitable assets, not legally but morally, go? But that wasn't really enough when they signed. The purpose of that is for those people who do sign to make sure that their children know and talk to their children on Passover or Rosh Hashanah or other holidays to discuss their promise and work it down, just as Javin Levinson did, just as what happened with the speakers tonight. So that's why I did it. And then I'll finish my story by saying that we're making tremendous progress all over the country, and we have even international people signing these promises, and now we also have a youth pledge for young people. It does not involve money. It involves a promise to support the Jewish community in the state of Israel. They write a letter to their future selves that goes into technology called a time capsule, and every 5 years that letter pops out on their technology so they can read what they wrote. Davis Academy, Weber School, camps, all these people. We have 40 Jewish organizations with kids signing. We have 20,000 individual children's signatures, and each organization owns it. So that's my gift. That's my gift and my idea to the Jewish community. And I want to tell you just two little things. Usually when I give a speech, I carry this little box. And you can't see it in the back, okay? This is what I grew up with. When I had pennies in my pocket, I put it in this box. Every Friday afternoon, about 3 o'clock, the doorbell, not the doorbell, we didn't have a doorbell. They knocked on the door, and a little Jewish guy with a long beard had a sack over his back. He picked up the box, and he put it in the sack, gave us another box to fill up in the house. Now, I never knew all those years, how could he guarantee that when you put the money in, you didn't know, how did it come out? So I never thought about it. So basically, I just bought this box a couple of years ago in an auction. Cost me $80. An $80 box. I mean, you couldn't get $80 in here no matter what. So one day I had the box and I was looking at it, and I found that it has a lock in the bottom. So you can't take the money out. Only the man that took the boxes home could take the money out. So anyway, so that's another historical thing, but the fact is, we're all doing this even without the box. The people in this room, you are all committed Jewish people. And I'm not preaching to the choir here. I'm saying we have to continue to do this, and we have to get our generations to continue after us. For many of us, let's see, I'm looking at this group, and I'll make a wager. There's nobody older in this group than me. Well, maybe one I see over there, you know, but whatever. So at any rate, that's the box. All right, now I'm going to give you one last story, and I'll get off the stage. Just to show you how long we've been around, this was a thing written by a rabbi in the 15th century. It's in the 1400s. A young man who I grew up with, actually his mother and my mother were pregnant together, so I knew him in utero somehow. But at the end of the day, he sent this to me. He's a rabbi, he's a retired rabbi now. It says, the astute 15th century commentator Yitzhak Arama. Now, I don't know if anybody here knows Yitzhak Arama, but I was taking Robert and John, who are both here with me tonight, were taking a course with David Silverman this morning from the Kollel. And and I said to Rabbi Silverman, I said, you got to read this. He said, oh, I know Yitzhak. 15th century, I don't know how he knew him. But anyway, Arama commented on the priestly blessing, which is in Bamidbar and Numbers, wrote that the connection between God and the Jewish people is made with silver threads. And this is a very important commentary. So you ask yourself, why would the priestly blessing be silver threads rather than gold? I'm not going to ask you that, Ed. I'm not going to ask you that question. Why silver and why not gold? Because silver tarnishes if it's neglected. It stays bright only when it's polished by human hands. Attention must be paid. This is both advice to myself and a recommendation to you. Stay knowledgeable and active Jews, and be proud. Be Jewish Americans, not American Jews. Jewish Americans, and tell everybody that that's what you are. Utilizing the treasures of our heritage to burnish the silver threads, to say Ani Yehudi, I am a Jew, and to mean it by that way and lead our lives that way. And that's my hope for everybody here. Thank you.
Let's give a big thank you to our storytellers tonight, Mike Levin, Ted Bloom, and Jenny Levinson, and thank you to you for also participating. So I'd like to invite up to the stage Lindy Kopecki, who's VP of the Atlanta Jewish Foundation, and Lee Katz, the Chair Emeritus of Life and Legacy. Please welcome them to the stage. Woo!
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Kopecki, and I'm the Vice President of the Atlanta Jewish Foundation. I think I speak for everyone tonight when I say how inspiring your stories were. In Judaism, we live in the tension between finding relevance in ancient tradition and living in a modern world. We learned from you how important our legacy and our family's legacy are and how it impacts the future of our community. Thank you for providing meaning to us tonight. Mike, I don't know where you are. He left on a plane. But he spoke about how the JNF's blue tzedakah boxes ingrained the principles of Jewish giving. It also ingrained the principle of Jewish giving in me. The money collected in those little boxes helped to make green a desert in Israel and cultivate a land that was once arid into a plush forest. Think about how small those seedlings were, and imagine now how tall those trees are, populated with leaves. Ted, Jenny, and Mike, to show our gratitude, we have planted trees in Israel in your honor. Thank you for inspiring us tonight.
Good evening. Good evening. 5.5 years ago, there would have been nobody in this room. Think of that. What y'all have done, and I'm from the South, so it's y'all, have done in 5.5 years, 45 some odd millions of pledges, lots of people in the wings, and the agencies in the first and second cohort continue to add to that number. Give yourself an applause, because we would have been zero. I think it's great. Last year, I had the honor of presenting the same award for success and for doing a fantastic job, and it went to Temple Emmanuel, chaired by Rick Shapiro, who's no longer with us, but he had a smile on his face when I gave him the award. Congratulations to Temple Emmanuel for last year. But this year, we have another agency that has done phenomenal. And I won't read all of this that they gave me to read, because I know we all have time. But Torah Day School has done a fantastic job. Not only do they have $1 million of committed LOIs, but they were able to get $23,000 of Grinspoon's money, which was used for grant incentive, which all the agencies are entitled to get. So Marcy Kaunitz is the chair of it. Where's Marcy at? I know I saw her earlier. And I couldn't tell you about the award. Come on up, Nor. I couldn't tell you about the award. And the entire team of Miriam Kahn, Rabbi Cohen, Seth Bernstein, Erica Tritt, Evie Resnick, and if I left somebody off, I apologize, but you guys have done a fantastic job. I've worked with Marcy off and on for about 15 years, and you guys did a great job. And we planted a tree in you guys' honor, and we put it next to Mike Levin. Thank you.
As I mentioned, I'm the Vice President of the Atlanta Jewish Foundation, and I am proud to lead the team. We are a proud part of the Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta. Our mission is to partner with you, our community, to reach your philanthropic goals and to help you repair the world through philanthropy. Our team works with organizations, many of whom are represented here tonight, individuals, couples, families, and even generations of families to develop giving strategies, learn how to give through a Jewish lens, and engage in meaningful conversations around legacy. Through the Atlanta Jewish Foundation, our donors were able to quickly deploy funds from supporting foundations, restricted funds, and donor-advised funds to support our brothers and sisters in Israel after October 7th. Their generosity helped to provide humanitarian, medical, mental health, and trauma relief, and our donors are still giving. I would be remiss if I didn't also share that 3 endowments created by legacy donors like you help to support efforts on the ground in Israel, support teens who are in Israel for a semester abroad, and support our post-high school gap year students who are spending this year in Israel. Although these donors would have never imagined the horror of October 7th, they would also have no idea that their generosity would be part of the healing after October 7th. You heard from Kathy and Tammy about the incredible success of life and legacy in Atlanta and North America, and how we continue to invest in Atlanta's Jewish organizations to build and grow their endowments. Thank you for your partnership, Kathy and Tammy and Harold Grinspoon Foundation. You heard from Mike about the importance of the Jewish Future Promise and how Atlanta is the leading city, that we have the most signers. As of today, we have 344 signers in our community. On your table, you will see a card that says Make the Promise. It has a QR code. Can we get to double high? Can we get to 360 by tomorrow? It's very, very simple. Open your phone, take a picture, it'll open it up to a page. All you have to do is sign. Thank you to Ahavat Achim for hosting us tonight in this beautiful space, and to Rabbi Rosenthal for your inspiring words. Thank you to our security staff for keeping us safe and working so hard. Thank you to Beth Araghetti, Chair of the Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta, and to Stephen Cadronell, the Chair of the Foundation Oversight Committee, for your incredible support and partnership. Thank you to the committee co-chairs, Karen and Michael Merlin, Lisa and Evan Toporak, and the entire community, and most importantly, thank you to everyone who has committed to the future of this community. There aren't enough words to express our gratitude. Last but not least, I want to thank Eric Robbins, Chief Executive Officer of the Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta. And most importantly to me is my team. You guys have done an incredible job. Thank you guys so much, especially the tremendous trio of Gila, Rachel, and Levi. You guys made tonight seamless, and your vision, I think we can all say that it was realized, right? If you are a member of the Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta or the Atlanta Jewish Foundation, can you please raise your hand? I'm sorry, I just mean the staff. But we're welcome to have all of you. Do not wait to start engaging in philanthropy. Everyone that was supposed to have their hand raised is eager to help you. Let's write the story of your family's legacy today. Thank you for coming. We invite you to please stay and enjoy dessert.